I think we are all making the most of what we can, right? And stay positive. So, welcome to Ask FEW Anything from Malaysia. I am your host, Coco Wong. I'm also the ambassador of Female Entrepreneur Worldwide Malaysia. So, every week, every month, we host one FEW, Ask FEW Anything from Malaysia. And this week, we are going to focus on something that is very relevant to 2021, because at the new year, everyone is starting afresh. Everyone wants to start planning for the next year and making 2021 the best year ever. And what better for us to start with by how successful women manage their finances. This is a very, very important topic for women who are in business, because at this time when the economy is not good, it's actually a very good time for us to look at our finances, reassess it, and actually start planning and seeing how we should manage it, whether we should go into safe mode or whether we should go into aggressively investing mode or how. So we're really, really honored today to have an expert in this field. Her name is April Lynn Tan. So April is the vice president of the largest online stockbroker in the Philippines, COL Financial. She also writes a weekly column for the Philippine Daily Inquirer and hosts a TV show for the ANC, which both focuses on the stock market, business, and personal finance topics. April was the president of the Chartered Financial Analyst Society of the Philippines, which is called CFA Philippines, from the 2009 to 2016. And under her term as president, sorry, just a little bit of housekeeping. Can we ask everyone to mute themselves? Thank you. So, yeah. So let me carry on. So under her term as the president, CFA Philippines actually won the Global CFA Institute Research Challenge twice and several Society Excellence Award, including the most outstanding society for its size. The society also became the country's sponsor for Global Investment Performance Standards, together with the Local Fund Managers Association of the Philippines and the Trust Officers Association of the Philippines. So you can see April is like the perfect person to help us along our journey of managing our finance and planning for 2021. So let me now invite April to come and speak with us. Hello, April. Thank you for agreeing to speak.
Hi, Coco, and thank you to FEW for inviting me to talk. And I hope that it will be worthwhile for your members, whatever I share with you.
Yeah, I'm sure it will be. Can you first share with us what do you do now, and what do you help people with?
I think, for 2021, well, despite 2020 being a pandemic-filled year, I mean, it's a lot easier, I would suppose, to be pessimistic. But I'd like to share what one of the listed companies, or the bosses of the listed companies, told me, even in the middle of the pandemic. He was so optimistic, and he said, I'm an entrepreneur, so I need to be optimistic. And they actually have done quite well, because they were able to, despite all the gloom, their eyes were open, and they were able to capitalize on the opportunities that were available. So when their earnings came out, we were quite surprised at how they managed so well. So that said, for 2021, I think that one of the things that, ladies such as us should look forward to is, identify, what were the good things about 2020, and let's take advantage of it. When I wrote my column, I think there are maybe two things that I'd like to share with you that are good about the pandemic. First of all is that, I mean, if you're working full time and you manage to keep your job, I think the positive part is, well, since we're going out less, we don't have to go to the office. Uh, we probably are saving a little bit more right now. And even if the economy looks like it will reopen soon, I think those money saving habits should be kept. So, if you used to travel every time there's a holiday, maybe make it a point to, uh, you know, travel less, maybe only twice a year instead of maybe 4 times a year. Secondly, some expensive habits like eating out in expensive restaurants, shopping, all these for expensive things. Obviously, we've done less of that in 2020. So let's continue to keep that. You probably realize that, hey, we don't need as much. And another good habit that probably a lot of us formed is, since we had more time, so probably we've been reading more. Or watching more YouTube or whatever. But rather than focusing on leisure and maybe watching too much Netflix, let's spend more time watching things or reading about things that will help us improve in terms of our capability. Because of course we want to improve our skills to make ourselves more relevant and useful. And I would say um, if we were working for somebody, more important to our employers, become better, even as entrepreneurs, continue to become better entrepreneurs.
That's great. So I know you're really experienced in the stock market and property investment. So would there be any strategies for 2021 that you can suggest to us?
Okay, for 2021, I think um well, for the market, I think it's still the same strategy. Rather than making it like a 2021 strategy, I think I'd like to focus it more on a long-term strategy when it comes to investing in stocks. I know that a lot of the ladies here are entrepreneurs, so they're very busy. They probably don't have a lot of time to, do individual stock picking. But we always advise our or people, the retail investors, is that one of the things you should do is always to set aside a portion of what you earn for investments. Okay. And for example, if you have a monthly salary, maybe set aside like 20% of what you earn as investments in the stock market. Okay, so and then automatically set it aside already from your bank account, and then automatically buy an index fund because you probably don't have any time for stock picking. Now, if there is a stock that you really like, it's okay. You could follow a core satellite strategy. Um, so that means that maybe 80% of your funds will be for an index, then maybe buy one or two stocks that you really like. Of course, not based on tips, because you know that this company is really going to do well, and then you buy a little bit of it. We also have to think about risk management because we don't know what could happen in the future, or maybe a company could have a great product but then it could become obsolete, or something like that. So we don't want to lose all our money, right? As far as properties are concerned, I don't know how things are there in your country, but um, I think that the outlook for property is still positive, simply because interest rates are so low and will most likely stay low. So rather than say, well, it's probably not gonna go, your price are probably not gonna go up. I think it might be a good idea actually to still invest and take advantage of the very low interest rates that are available. So maybe go around, shop around, look for low interest rate options, attractive ways to borrow money, and still, I would recommend to buy some properties at this point.
That's great. Thank you for that tip. And by the way, audience, everyone's in here. Feel free to ask any questions that you have. That since we've got the expert here, might as well make use of this opportunity. And this is what entrepreneurs do. We grab the opportunity. So please feel free to ask questions. Okay. So thank you for that. But one thing I have question mark is, so you said property is still good, but whether it's, do you feel that it's going to go up? Because COVID seems to be coming to stay for a little while, and investment in property longer term thing, right? So if we're investing into property, do you think we should wait a little longer so the market goes down a little bit more, or whether it's actually irrelevant whether we wait or not?
You know, the funny thing is, okay, I don't know how things work there in your country, but in the Philippines, um, we've been waiting for a bit and the prices never collapsed. That's the funny thing. Uh, it's because, and also, here's the thing, when you try to borrow money from the bank, they kind of look at you. If they think you're good credit, they will lend you money. If you still have a job, they lend you money. But if you're, I don't know, they feel like you're bad credit, they're a little bit stricter. They won't lend you money. So there are opportunities, but I think we don't know if prices are going to go down, like how low is low. Personally, for me, how do I evaluate things? Well, for me, I would compute how much I will earn. I mean, I usually don't buy properties to flip. I buy properties to lease out. So what I do is I try to study what the market is doing for the lease rates. Then I try to see how much I need to borrow to buy a property I like, and how much the monthly amortization is, and if it will self-liquidate using the amount, the rental income that I will get, then I'd buy, even if it's maybe not the lowest price ever. So that's how I look at it. I won't wait for the lowest price because, well, at least in the Philippines right now, the prices are not going down. And I think it's because interest rates are so low. Just to put things into perspective, here in the Philippines, for example, our time deposit rate for, even if you have maybe $1 million or more, is now less than 1%. So it's less than a percent. So you have a lot of rich people with a lot of money who are also waiting for those bargains. So you're competing with them, and it's hard when there's so much competition. So probably what that means is, if prices are gonna go down, they're gonna go down 10 to 20%. It's not a lot if you think about it. Um, and maybe that's for people who actually have cash. And I don't know if you have cash. Maybe if you have cash, then you should. But it doesn't. It helps that if you're already in the market. Um, well, when I was more active in investing in residential before, I actually talk to a lot of agents. I look at the ads all the time. And, I mean, it helps to be in the market. The agents have to know that you're there, so that when there's a good deal, um, they tell you. And you go around, you take a look at what you like, what you like, so that when an asset that you like is actually available, you're there right away. You have to act fast, because these opportunities are also, gone right away, because everybody's waiting for the opportunity to buy cheap because of the crisis.
That's great advice. I guess it's true. We never know when it's going to be the lowest price. And if we wait, we may be waiting
Yeah.
forever and missing opportunities as well. So on the
Hmm.
topic of loans and low interest rate at the moment, do you advise on getting a loan to actually start a business, or actually to do something or invest more into a business and expand at this time? Because it's sort of like a dilemma. is a risky time to start, but at the same time, it's actually the cheapest time to start as well. So what would your advice be?
Mhm. Well, if the business has good growth prospects, then definitely you should. Um, just to share my own personal experience, okay, I don't know how banks are there, but here in the Philippines, for example, it's really so hard to borrow money. Um, but my husband and I actually started a business last year during the time of the pandemic, and we were actually granted a loan by two banks. They they approved our loan application, but we had to go with one bank. But anyway, the point is, if your business has a solid growth prospect, um, go ahead and apply for loan. Like, okay, what business did we go into? My husband and I went into a warehouse leasing business. Okay, and initially we thought the bank would only lend us a small amount because of course we don't have money. I mean, if you're gonna build a warehouse, that's really very expensive, right? So we initially were gonna borrow only a small amount, but then the bank, in some ways, they kind of implied, "Hey, we want you to buy the land. We don't want you to just be, renting that land and you know, giving us the improvement as your collateral because we want the land as the collateral." So, go out there and just um, do your BHAG, your big, hairy, audacious goal. And, I just told the bank, so what if you lend me more money? Like a lot more, like three times what I initially wanted. It doesn't matter, there's a pandemic. I have my numbers, and here are my numbers. I can prove to you that I have a contract and I can pay for it in 10 years. And lo and behold, they actually preferred to lend me more money and lend me money. So, I mean, if that's the case, then you should just go out there and borrow. I mean, if your business has good growth prospects, then definitely go out there and do it. Just make sure you know how to defend, like how you're gonna pay for it. And I just told the bank, in case I can't pay for it, you'll be on the winning end because if you foreclose on my property, um, whoever will, I mean, you put it in the market, and I'm sure within a month or two you can sell it because the yield of whoever will get it from you is more than 10%. So, I mean, I guess it helps if you're very confident and you know your numbers and you tell the bank that these are the numbers, this is how I will pay, this is how confident I am. And if you have all of those, I think you should go out there and borrow and grow, especially while people are still um, think about it, while people are still apprehensive about expanding. It's good to grab market share and to grow while they're actually shrinking.
That's great. So we're starting to get some questions from the audience. So Sonia, you're first up. Would you like to unmute? And if you can, turn on your camera. I think it's nice if we can see your beautiful face. Sonia, are you there? Sonia? Okay. Narissa. Narissa? Oops, she just dropped off. Narissa here? No. Okay. Never mind. So I'll just keep on asking the questions until they get back. So anyway,
That's okay.
sorry about that. Yeah. So on that note, also on credit, something about credit. I think it's great that you just said we can go all out if we are sure. Then we can ask the bank they actually want to lend money at this time. But what about credit cards? Because I know a lot of millennials are really overusing their credit cards, and actually, to be honest, sometimes they don't even know how much they've spent in that month, right? So, what would your advice be on how to myself, I keep going out and just keep using the credit card until I get the monthly statement and go, wow. Because you mentioned beforehand, we should start thinking and holding back, not go to fancy restaurants or do the luxurious things that we used to do. But how do we
Mhm.
control the credit card spending, especially for the younger ones? How do we help them as well?
Well, I guess if you can get away with not using the credit card, then just don't use it. Um, okay, I guess the question has to do with general budgeting. I think first of all, it's kind of hard. Of course, you want to buy nice things, right? That there's always this temptation to buy nice things, but you know, after a while, you kind of realize once you become successful, people don't care anymore. Um, how expensive your bag is or where you have been or you know um, they just don't care anymore. So personally, okay, like maybe 10 years ago when I first got my big bonus, I bought myself an LV bag. And the funny thing is, okay, like there was this bag that I like from LV that's probably like $1,000. That was like 10 years ago. Of course the prices are different now. And then my boss goes, "Come on, that's like entry level LV. You have to buy the $1,500 so people know that you're successful, right?" but but the thing is when you become, I guess, more successful in life, when you've done more, people are not gonna care what your bag is anymore or if you're wearing nice shoes. As long as, I'm not saying let's not take care of how we look, we have to make sure we always look pleasant, and we're always neat and very presentable. But we don't have to buy all these expensive things to impress people or to show them that we've been to all these expensive restaurants. The funny thing is, people like, they're actually, when you become successful, they people are jealous of you even without those expensive things. They're jealous of you not because you have that bag or because you're wearing those shoes. Like for me, okay, I write a column and I have a TV show, and I never realized that it was such a big deal. But then when people find out about it, they're like, "Wow, how did you get that?" So so with success, those things become less important actually. So I guess that's my advice. And if well, if you can help it, maybe don't well don't use the credit card anymore. Or maybe another tip that I could share is, there are so many apps right now that actually allow you to track your spending. I've never really tried it because in general, I think maybe because I'm an analyst, I am very cost conscious. But okay, I think I've used like a weight loss app where you actually track your calories and they work. So most likely, if we use that approach for our budget, then I think it probably will also work.
I think that's a great advice because I think tracking actually helps you see where you're putting your money into and actually identifies the area that we are wasting money in as well. I remember at one
Yeah,
time
yeah.
I was buying a lot of magazines, just like any magazine. And I used
Mm,
to track in this little notebook before apps came on. And I could see, oh my God, I'm spending a majority, 10% of my income on magazines, which actually I don't
yeah,
even
yeah.
flip through much. And that was a wake up call for me back then. So I think tracking definitely is a
Mhm.
great advice. Thank you very much. And I love that.
Yeah. And all,
Carry
yeah.
on, sorry.
Hmm. Yeah, and also for me, okay, since I live in a condominium, one of my realizations is you can't keep so much stuff, right? So you need to dispose of them. And when you dispose of them, what do you get? Like probably 5%, 10% of the value, and people like ask for discounts. It annoys me so much. I spent good money on my things, and then you guys are gonna ask me for a discount on a hard to use item. So So that's another reason why it irritates me to buy so much stuff. And then when you wanna dispose it, then you have to go through all of that. So anyway,
Yes, and I love you saying that when you're successful, actually people don't care about your brand and your bag or whatever you do anymore. But I think it's on the way up when we feel that we need to impress successful yet. That is the time when we overspend on things. But great.
Mhm.
So okay, next question that we have from the audience is let me find it. It's so for stock market, which industry do you think is right to look into right now, except for healthcare, apart from healthcare?
Well, tech is still good, I think. But then, well, valuations are a tricky part because tech tends to be more expensive. But then, if you think about it, the tech sector would still be um, more resilient. The problem is, I guess, with the around fourth quarter of last year, a lot of the traditional companies have rallied on hopes that things would normalize this year because of the vaccines. But I guess the question is, will they really? So I'd rather stick with companies that go, um, regardless of what happens with the vaccines, whether they really are rolled out or not. Well, okay, maybe you could also buy a little bit of traditional companies like your property companies or the banks, but maybe buy them a little slower, like maybe buy a little bit every month rather than being aggressive and buying all at once, or try to make sure that you don't buy them too expensively because it might still take time for them to recover on a sustainable basis. There might be opportunities to buy them at cheaper valuations.
Okay, great. So we've got a question, follow-up question from the audience, Prisha, but she would like me to ask on her behalf. Is your favorite?
Again,
Which
can you
index
repeat the question?
which index funds are your favorite?
Oh, well, hmm. Actually, I'm focused on Philippines, but we do have a sister company that also trades in the US. So I think probably you should buy a little bit also of the US market simply because um, I think when we talk about new technologies, they are still able to do it more there in the US. Fundraising is easier and more IPOs take place there. So maybe buying more of, say, an S&P 500 plus a little bit of maybe a NASDAQ type of index and maybe some ETFs along those lines would be good.
Okay, great. Thank you. So we have another question. How do you accelerate growth in an organization whilst taking care of the family at the same time?
Hmm. Well, that's a good question. um, I know in the Philippines we're lucky because we actually have helpers who can help us, so we can still do our work. Um, but geez, I don't know. It it's really difficult. Maybe I'm lucky because our company um has a rule on work-life balance. So that said, we they don't really overwork us. They give us time to still spend with our family. But I mean, for me, even with that, I mean, I try to do my best to deliver good quality work all the time, regardless of having children or not. I guess maybe only accepting jobs that you can deliver good work on, rather than accepting everything then giving lousy work. um I don't know. It's really tough. maybe not all jobs are the same. So it's really hard to give a suggestion. But I guess it's okay. You know, when I was young, I thought that uh, when you have children and you decide to slow down, then it's game over. You're like not employable anymore. You're useless. And then when you try to go back, um, there's no more place for you. But I actually do have friends who, one of my friends, she's Rose Fausto. She quit her job when she had her children. But the funny thing is when her kids grew up, she started a blog. Um, and she's actually quite successful. She's into personal finance because they loved her talking about how she raised her children to become successful, and talking about her personal finance tips. So now she's like a personal finance guru for catering to mothers, and she also writes a column. Then she gets invited to speak. So you can still do a lot of things. Then of course you could do consultancy after that. I guess what's important is, even though you are a housewife, is to um, remain relevant, like continue to read about things, and continue to learn. And I guess to tell yourself, hey, you're not useless just because you're a housewife, because you're actually very important. I mean, think about it. Your husband cannot do his job properly if you're not there taking care of the children in the house. So I mean, there are a lot of things that make us relevant even though we are housewives. So, maybe you can take on a job that is, I guess, less busy, when you have the children, so that at least, y- you're still in the loop.
Okay, I would like to chime in a little bit on this, because basically, as a mother and as an entrepreneur, we are very busy. But there are two things that I always do. One is to say no, no to um, jobs, like April mentioned. I agree with that. Don't take on too much, and also no to actually being perfect. We don't have to be perfect in everything. So as a mother, I feel sometimes we want to be perfect and we want to do everything, but we have to say to ourselves, let go and say no. We don't need to be doing that. So that gives us more of a safety zone, and we feel better about ourselves. But the second one is outsource. So like April said, in the Philippines, they have helpers, but in our business, we can also outsource a lot of things. So, for example, FEW has a lot of things that we can outsource to, and they will help us. And then there are many other companies, Fiverr, everything. So list down the things that are strategic and list down the things that are tactical. And those two that are time consuming for you to do and is tactical and can be outsourced, send it out, because as the masterminds of entrepreneurs, in your company, we should be focusing on strategic rather than doing tactical every day. That will be one of the ways that I do it. So hopefully that helps. So, okay, next
Yeah.
question. How much should be the initial investment, I guess, in stock be?
Yeah, it shouldn't be a lot. Something that you'd be comfortable even with the volatility, because stocks are supposed to be long-term investments. Um, if you look at the studies, it will show you that stocks perform the best over the long term. The problem is they're very volatile in the short term. So we have to accept that reality about stocks. So the only way you can sit on it and maximize the returns is actually to invest only a small amount in stocks, an amount that you know for sure that you can keep for the long term, rather than putting a lot, and then when the price is volatile and you need to actually withdraw that money, then the price is down, and then you lose money. So let's just buy enough. There, you don't need to buy a lot to be successful. Just buy a little bit and add a little bit over time.
Okay, thank you. And another question is, when did you start your financial planning, and when did you achieve your financial freedom?
Oh, when the funny thing is, I'm Chinese, so in the Philippines, they know that when you're Chinese, you're stingy, or I don't know if stingy is the word, but you kind of like you don't spend money. So when I was young, I really wasn't spending a lot. I was saving a lot of my salary, and I was investing in stocks, but I never really had a plan as to by this age I'd have this, by this age I'd have that. But if you ask me like what's my tip to make it more relevant to have a financial plan, for me my plan, okay, more or less came about when I had children, because it became more relevant to me why I was saving why I needed to save money. And my plan or my goal, well, my husband and I talked about it, is to be able to um, have enough passive income by the time we retire. Like, it depends on you, how much is do you think is the passive income that's right for you. Like for us, we were targeting around $20,000 a month in passive income. So how do we achieve that? Well, for us, we felt that the property market would be the best way to go. So we slowly invested in properties, using, of course, a leverage strategy, because otherwise, I mean, if you depend on cash, good luck to you unless you're really rich, right? So that's what we did. We invested in properties using a leverage strategy. And of course, if we get bonuses, then we'd pay down debts or buy new properties. So that became our way of reaching that. As to reaching financial freedom, um, I would say maybe 2 years ago. How long did it take me? Probably around 10 years to reach. But I guess it also depends, like, how do you define what's comfortable for you? But for me, it's more of, I wanted to make sure that I could maintain my lifestyle even though I retire from work. But whether or not I will retire from work, I don't know. Maybe not. I don't think I want to retire because I just love what I do. So I think I will continue to work. It's just the idea of that I can quit my job if I don't like it anymore, or do whatever I want to do. That is very liberating, if you ask me. So yeah.
Yes, that is liberating. Okay, so we've got an audience who wants to ask a question. Trixia, is that how you
Okay.
pronounce it? Trixia? Go ahead. And if you can turn on your camera, that would be great too. Go ahead, Trixia. You are muted, right? Hello?
Hello. Yeah,
Yes,
it's
please go
Riksha.
ahead. Oh, Trixia, okay. So please go
Okay.
ahead.
I'm still setting my. I just joined in. I'm late. Sorry. Yeah, my question is about. I am in my late 20s now, and I'm an OFW, an overseas Filipino worker.
Mm.
So I and I'm starting to settling down. Like I think I'm already on my I can handle my finances now, and I think I want to have my own business so that I know that sooner I want to travel and then paid for my own expenses and not rely on my salary or my monthly income. So could you help me to have an idea of how to start up a business, or any idea that would like additional income, not just my salary or my monthly income. That would be all.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe. if it's business, maybe Coco can talk more about it. Like for me, for me, because well, having a business is difficult if you have to spend time for it. If let's say you have a job, then you have a business. It's
Mm-hmm.
difficult. I don't know. Never tried it, but I heard some mom entrepreneurs, for example, they would do their thing on the weekends. Like they'd plan their social media advertising during the weekends, but I don't know how they do it on the weekdays. For me, what worked though was the properties because that's a passive income and something that you could do on a regular basis easily. You'd get your tenants and then they probably change every year or every 2 3 years. So that's something that's easy to manage.
Oh,
Maybe Coco can add on the business side.
oh, real
Yeah.
estate.
So for you, I would say start exploring what you're passionate about first, and explore different industries. Go and have a look at the stuff that you really like the industries that you really like, and see how the competitors are doing it, the brands that you like in that industry, how are they doing it, and of course, when having a job and then doing a side hustle, we call it now, the side hustle needs to be something you're passionate about, because otherwise you won't be able to sustain it, because you have a full-fledged job and you need to spend your spare time doing something that you love. Okay, so that would be the first step, because once you find that first step, then you can go into looking at to how to do it. And the easiest way now is to go online, literally, because
Online.
and automate it, because if you can do it online and automate, then it doesn't take up as much time. So, and you can give yourself a bit of freedom to do your work, and then if you can automate the leads, the sales in that is online, then it'll be an easier way. Yeah. So hopefully that helps a little bit.
Yeah, thank
Okay,
you.
so thank you very much. So I think we have time for one more question. Okay, a few tips, April, for us to handle our cash flow as a female entrepreneur, and how to handle attitudes of the male working under us, because sometimes they have egos pop up whenever a lady boss requests or instruct them to do work. So two parts. One is how to handle our cash flow, and then the other is how to handle the attitudes of male employees or staff, I guess.
Yeah, I guess on the cash flow basis, well, I just share with you the tip of my boss, because he always tells me, I only started my business with 1,000 US dollars, and now he's like a billionaire. So then his tip was like, first of all, is when his business makes money, he always set aside 20% for his own personal. So he separates his personal money from the business money. Okay. But of course, you don't withdraw everything from the business. You withdraw only a portion of what you earn, maybe 20%, and then just keep the 80% and let it revolve. And I guess, also dealing with other entrepreneurs, the problem usually is if the business encounters difficulties, I guess you have to ask yourself honestly, is it worth maintaining the business or not? I mean, maybe uh, it's too competitive, or you're doing the business but it's just losing money, and it's not worth it. Then pulling the plug early and accepting that you know it's not worth it, then don't do it anymore. Then maybe think of another business, or try to ask yourself what went wrong, rather than continuing to spend money on a losing business. um, I think that kind of helps. And what is the second question again? Sorry.
The second question is basically how to handle the attitudes of male
Oh,
working under us.
yeah, that can be an issue, but I really don't know in other countries, but in the Philippines they're actually a little bit nicer. I don't know why. um yeah, but the funny thing is, for me, I actually have a more difficult time dealing with ladies rather than with men. Because for men, you just have to show them that you know what you're talking about. Um, as long as you tell them what you want, why you want it, and you know what you want, and you have all this objective data and stuff, they'll do it for you. But for ladies, it's more like, uh, personally, my feeling is they kind of get, um, they want to test you. uh, they can't accept that you are a successful female. So they're like testing whether, you really know your stuff. And like, and for me, my issue is usually they question that I'm really good because I don't look smart. Okay. I think they expect somebody who's, wearing glasses, who looks like a nerd, and then, okay, you don't look like somebody. Maybe you're successful just because you're pretty, and the guys are giving you favors. So I find them more difficult to deal with, and yeah, they tend to be more emotional, rather than objective. But for men, it's more of, you can explain to them why you want it, and and that kind of works, for me, at least.
That's a very interesting sharing, especially with the females who actually, and I agree,
Yeah,
they actually do think that way, right? When you look pretty
yeah,
and you're successful, they just think that it's because of your looks and not anything else.
yeah. Yeah.
That's quite okay. So anyway, that's all we have time for today. But thank you everyone for being here. And if you would like to learn more about the entrepreneurial journey, I invite you to contact FEW for a more personalized business advice that they will give to you. And also because we run these as FEW everything regularly, please submit any questions you have. And if we have the right speakers and everything that fits to your question, we will let you know as well. But please continue to support, and hopefully everyone have a successful 2021. Happy New Year, everyone.
Yeah. Happy New Year.
To April.